Philadelphia Baseball History presents Robert Lefty Grove and the Business of Baseball. Hey, this is Bill Kovacs for Philadelphia Baseball History, and today we're going to talk about Robert Moses Lefty Grove in the context of the business of baseball. Now, last year, 3 players, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, and Mike Trout, all signed contracts worth in excess of $25 million per year just to play baseball. When baseball players sign these record-breaking contracts, you often hear somebody complain about the nation's priorities. You might hear them say something like, "Why do we value sports players over teachers?" Of course, paying big money for a star player is nothing new in baseball. In 1925, Connie Mack paid $100,600 just so Lefty Grove could play for his Philadelphia Athletics. That would be about $1.5 million in 2020. This was the highest amount that had been paid for a player at that time, exceeding even the $100,000 the Yankees paid the Red Sox in 1920 for Babe Ruth. The problem is that Lefty Grove received none of that money. In 1925, Mack paid Grove a mere $6,500. The economics of baseball were much different in Lefty Grove's time. There were no lucrative TV revenues. Teams didn't make a lot of money off merchandising. The economic calculations were simpler. How do we get more people to buy tickets? How do we keep expenses down? For team owners, how to keep expenses down was simple. Let's control the growth of players' salaries. Sure, owners recognized that star players brought fans into the stand, and those star players, in turn, would command higher salaries than their counterparts. But those salaries were nowhere near what Major League Ball players make today. To start with, the way talented athletes were found and brought into the league differed greatly than the amateur draft and minor league affiliates baseball has now. Without television or other forms of mass entertainment, baseball leagues flourished in the United States. Often there would be teams associated with factories or other local businesses that played each other. Minor leagues formed in areas considered remote now. A man may start playing for a factory team and be spotted by a minor league manager who just happened to be scouting the company leagues. When offered a contract to play ball for money, young men would jump at the opportunity, knowing it was a way out of the monotonous and sometimes dangerous work. The bigger economics of the game, which favored owner exploitation of their players, may not initially affect the player's decision to sign a contract and go pro. At the heart of the system of exploitation lay the reserve clause. Player contracts invariably contained the reserve clause, which required a player, once the season had ended, to play for the same team in the following season. Player contracts could be bought, sold, and traded among the different team owners. This meant that a player from a team in Durham, North Carolina, could find himself in Dayton, Ohio the next season without having any say in the matter. Once a player signed a contract to play baseball professionally, if he wanted to continue to play baseball for money, he no longer had any choices. An agreement that almost all professional leagues concluded after the war that the American and National Leagues fought, poaching players from each other, meant that almost all teams, whether in the major or minor leagues, honored the reserve clause of each other. This meant that if a major league owner wanted to have a star athlete from the minor leagues on his team, he would have to buy that player's contract from the minor league club's owner. Savvy minor league owners could make a business of identifying young talent willing to play for pennies to escape the work on the farms or in the mines, and selling their contract in a bidding war among major league teams. This was the world that existed for Lefty Grove when he began his baseball career. One of 8 children born into a mining community in Lincoln, Maryland, Grove quit the mines after only 2 weeks. He bounced from heavy labor job to heavy labor job throughout his teens. At age 19, a general store owner offered Grove a chance to play for a local team in Maryland. After pitching a no-hitter where he struck out 18 batters against the B&O Railroad team, Grove found himself working for the Railroad so that he could play for the company team in the next season. Before the 1920 season started, Bill Loudon, the manager of the Martinburg Mountaineers, a Class D team from the Blue Ridge League, offered Grove $125 a month to play ball professionally. In his first 6 games, Grove had amassed 60 strikeouts over 59 innings. Jack Dunn, owner of the Baltimore Orioles, a club playing Double-A ball in the International League, heard about Grove and sent his son Jack Jr. to watch him pitch a game in Hagerstown. With Dunn Jr. impressed, the Orioles agreed to pay for the installation of a new fence for Martinsburg, as the old outfield fence had been destroyed in a storm, in exchange for Grove's contract. The fence cost $3,500. Dunn had previously sold star pitchers Babe Ruth and Ernie Shore to the Boston Red Sox when his first installment of the Baltimore Orioles found themselves under attack from the upstart Federal League. The Federal League challenged the dominance of the American and National Leagues, poaching star players from both leagues and the minor leagues in order to create a competing third major league. The Federal League placed a team in Baltimore, the Terrapins, who built their ballpark across the street from the Orioles' home field. This undercut Dunn's Double-A Orioles, whose attendance dwindled. To rescue his finances, Dunn took steps to move his team to Richmond, Virginia. Once the Federal League collapsed, however, Dunn sold his share in the Richmond team and purchased a failing team from Jersey City to move the team to Baltimore, where he had purchased the Terrapins ballpark. This became Dunn's second iteration of the Baltimore Orioles. Dunn stocked his Orioles team with talented players and began a 7-year run of winning the International League pennant. Grove, for example, amassed a record of 108 wins to 36 losses for a winning percentage of .750 in the 4+ years with the Orioles. Grove also led the International League in strikeouts every year he played for Baltimore. The Baltimore team was so dominant that it would often have the championship sewed up by mid-season. This depressed the ticket sales of other International League clubs, who pressured Dunn to sell his players to the major leagues in order to create better parity among the International League. The other owners used a newly instituted draft as their leverage against Dunn. The draft allowed major league teams to pick players from the minor leagues and pay the minor league owners a flat fee for the players' contracts, depending on the league's level. The price for drafting a player from Double-A was $5,000. Minor league teams could likewise draft players from the leagues beneath them. However, leagues could exempt themselves from the draft, provided they give up the right to draft players from the lower leagues. The International League was one of 5 Double-A leagues that chose to exempt themselves from the draft. Dunn opposed the draft, believing it unfair for major league teams to be able to purchase a player's contract for a mere $5,000 when the player could be worth far more than that. He had convinced fellow owners to forego the draft. When those owners saw their attendance drop due to the uneven distribution of talent, they threatened to join the draft system if Dunn did not sell off some of his star players to make the league more competitive. Reluctantly, Dunn agreed. By 1925, Dunn agreed to sell his ace pitcher to his friend Connie Mack. The 1925 season was a disappointing one for Grove. While he threw with power, his command was often erratic. Grove posted his only losing record in the major leagues at 10-12. Nonetheless, he showed promise, as Grove led the American League in strikeouts with 116. Grove would go on to lead the American League in strikeouts in his first 7 seasons. Indeed, over the course of his 17-year career in the majors, Grove led the American League 9 times in ERA. From 1929 through 1931, the A's boasted one of the most powerful lineups in baseball history. 3 Hall of Famers, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Mickey Cochran, along with outfielders Mule Haas and Bing Miller, provided the power to the Athletics offense. Only Haas, who batted .299 in 1930, and Fox, who batted .291 in 1931, fell below .300 during this period. Grove, meanwhile, led the league in win percentage in all 3 years at .769 in 1929, .848 in 1930, and .886 in 1931. Together, they propelled the team to 3 straight pennants and 2 world championships in the second of Connie Mack's dynasties. In 1931, the Baseball Writers Association of America instituted the Most Valuable Player Award in both leagues, as determined by a ballot of one writer in each city with a team. Grove, who led the majors in the categories of wins, win percentage, ERA, and strikeouts, won the award for the American League. Yet during the 3-year dynasty, Mack never paid Grove more than $20,000. By 1932, Mack found himself in a financial strain. He had borrowed $750,000 before the stock market crash of 1929 to renovate Shibe Park. Mack also noticed that once Philadelphia fans had a championship team, they lost interest in that team even if they continued to dominate play. Thus, gate receipts dwindled after the 1929 World Championship, despite 2 more pennant victories and a second World Championship. By 1932, the team had fallen to second place, and ticket revenue continued to fall. Mack found himself selling off Simmons, Haas, and infielder Jimmy Dykes to the Chicago White Sox for $150,000. Depending on current income to meet expenses, Mack continued to sell his key players as the A's fell to 3rd place in 1933 and 4th place in 1934. Grove was sold to Boston after the 1933 season. Grove battled injury but continued to play well with Boston. Yet, the most he was paid was $45,000 in 1934. Indeed, Grove earned only $10,000 in the following year. While his salary reached $19,000 in 1937, Grove found his earnings dwindled in the next few years in baseball. After earning his 300th career win, Boston released Grove after the 1931 season. In the offseason, Grove decided to retire. He had earned $10,000 in his final year. During his playing career and after retirement, Grove supplemented his income by running a bowling alley called Lefty's Place in his hometown of Lonaconning. He also served as a town councilman and the town's police chief. Nonetheless, Grove endured a divorce and required financial assistance in his later years. In the end, the Hall of Fame pitcher never realized the multi-million-dollar salaries players now command due to the elimination of the reserve clause and the rise of free agency. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider supporting us at Patreon. Also, please hit the like button. An online merchandise store, and I'll leave a link to that in the box below. Please consider subscribing to our channel and hit the bell button if you would like notifications whenever we release a new video. Leave a comment on what Philadelphia baseball topic you would like us to make a video of in the future. Thank you.